We got a bit of a surprise trailer released today, but before we get to that, there is some other fan news I want to highlight. First off, while there is a legendary hero for February this month, we have a confirmation we're getting another legendary hero next month too. They recently said this could happen instead of the usual legendary then Mythic switch off, so not a huge surprise. Next bit of news is that the A Hero Rises voting gauntlet bracket has officially been confirmed. We are indeed following standard bracket seeding, so 1st versus 8th, 2nd versus 7th, and so on. The matchups will be Dual Female Corrin versus Dual Dagger, Fallen Edelgard versus Harmonic Azura and Leanne, Thor versus Atri, and then Legendary Sigurd versus Legendary Male Byleth. I have a video on the Hero Rises participants if you're still looking to join the team. Like we talked about with this seeding, it is possible for a 4-way green banner. That would be insane, but for this to happen, 2 underdogs are going to have to pull out the win. The voting gauntlet begins very soon, so time to pick a side. As for this month's Legendary Summoning event, we got the trailer a bit early, or late, I'm not sure. The banner doesn't start for a few more days, and we actually should see the results of round 1 of the voting gauntlet before that. That may help you decide if you want to summon on this banner. As usual, there is the 8% focus rate with no pity breakers. If you have the Fade Pass, you can spark any of the 12 heroes. We'll be talking about each one briefly today. Our new legendary hero is going to be Legendary Caeda, and she was indeed leaked a little while ago. Unsurprisingly, Caeda finally gets her wing spear, so she's going to be a lance flyer, and while she is a water paired legendary, you're going to notice she has the speed bonus symbol as well. This is the first time you've seen this, and while not confirmed, it could mean they are giving the pair of legendaries stat bonuses now for their blessings. Some good old power creep in action. In terms of ult skills, Caeda has Moonbow with attack and defense range 3. She will want those defense debuffs because Caeda is all about getting more damage. The Wing Lifted Spear is a 60-minute weapon. It has Kanto 2, grants +3 attack, and is effective against armor and cavalry units. If Caeda initiates combat or is within 2 spaces of an ally, grant +5 to all stats, and also if the foe has field buffs on them, grant attack, speed, defense, and res +X to Caeda, and inflict attack, speed, defense, and res -X on the foe during combat. So, not too much of a surprise, Caeda's going to get her Wing Spear with dual effectiveness. I'm actually a bit sad they didn't keep the wild effective damage versus weapon type thing. Would have been pretty unique, and we literally just got a near safe arm unit who does not care about armor effectiveness anyway. Regardless, on top of dual effectiveness, Caeda gets +8 attack to back it up, and hopefully she has a good starting base attack stat this time. She will probably be pretty fast, so it just depends on how much defensive stats they want to give her. Now, for the last part of this weapon, unless I missed something, they just rewrote the effect of Freya's Binding Necklace. Not sure why, but I'm pretty sure it is the same thing. Basically, if the foe has +6 field buffs to all stats, Caeda's going to gain +6 to all stats herself, and she's going to inflict -6 to all stats on the foe. She effectively steals the field buffs for herself. This is not the same as low B skills though, so if the foe has skills that proc off of field buffs, those effects are still going to activate. One example is Bonus Doubler. Overall, not a super crazy weapon, but Kanto and dual effectiveness is always good to have. For her unique B skill, Caeda has Faithful Loyalty. This B skill has 3 separate effects. First, if an armor or cavalry foe initiates combat, Caeda counterattacks first, aka Vantage. Second, she's going to neutralize effects that prevent her follow-up attacks. This is offensive, no follow-up. Third, after combat, grant the Vantage status to Caeda. This Vantage status lets her counter first at any HP level. Initially, this B skill seems targeted at armor and cavalry units and is enemy phase only, but there are periods in place. Basically, she's always going to get offensive no follow-up, and she has perma Vantage against armors and cavaliers at all times. To get the Vantage status, she must enter combat. Only then can she use Vantage against any enemy type. I would think of this like Legendary Claude's Fallen Star. Caeda is meant to initiate on the player phase, she can then retreat with Kanto 2, and then for the enemy phase, she has Vantage set up. Basically, if you can't survive her Vantage proc, you do not want to let her initiate. If you're thinking of using a ranged unit, well, Caeda has Distant Storm. This is a new distant counter variant where if you have more than 25% HP, you get +5 attack during combat. However, after combat, you take 5 recoil damage. This is the melee counterpart to Dual Chrom's Close Salvo. I'm really liking these new names, but boy, keeping track of all these DC and close counter variants are gonna get confusing. Like with the other distant counter skills, you would recoil damage, you get the +5 attack on the enemy phase and the player phase, and she's gonna have dual effectiveness with Vantage built in. She is very much like young Caeda, who also makes use of the classic DC plus Vantage builds from back in the day. Now, if Caeda ends up having good res or something, and you just want to use her as a traditional DC tank, then the recoil damage is probably going to hinder you more than help. That's okay though, because these DC variants come with the base version, so you can use the one you want at any time. Overall, Legendary Caeda is definitely pulling from her young ult a lot. She has a niche of being able to perma Vantage against Cavaliers and arm units with effective damage. Essentially, if the enemy has tons of bow cavs or mages, Caeda can just let them initiate and she's gonna blow them up with Vantage first. There are some issues with this plan in the form of Fire Sweep weaponry, Dazzling Staff, or the classic Sake's Blessing on Brave Lyn. There is also Hardy Bearing potentially. I am sure Caeda should be able to easily one-shot Vantage most offensive ranged cavs, but arm units can be a problem. It's not often ranged armors are initiating thanks to save skills now, but if they do, some of them may come with things like Savvy Fighter and damage reduction. Caeda is probably fast, but her base kit only gives +5 speed to help in those speed battles. For the most part, she is all in on one-shotting foes. +8 attack from her weapon, +5 from Distant Storm, and -4 defense from her Rain C skill. She does have offensive no follow-up to double, but like with any offensive attacker, I am concerned with her surviving counterattacks. She has no damage reduction, no guard, and no desperation or wind sweep shenanigans. She also has no special cooldown of her own, and this time she doesn't have Flashing Blade innately. At least she stacks a ton of attack if you do want to use Heavy Blade. One thing Caeda does have is her buff stealing effect. This could help her secure one-shot Vantage procs and turn a fight around if the foe uses too many field buffs. While Legendary Caeda isn't doing anything super new, she's another reminder of the good old Vantage still being annoying. It used to reign supreme back in the way old days, and it can definitely still screw you up if you don't pay attention, so don't underestimate her. Moving on to the 11 other heroes on the banner. In the red group we have Regan, Sothis, and Malice. Blue has Legendary Caeda, Note, and Legendary Faye. Green has Triandra, Legendary Edelgard, and Astrid. Last, colorless has Legendary Leaf, Legendary Corrin, and Ascended Laegern. Starting with the red group, Regan is back again. She is the book 5 for a unit, so everyone should have her to use. Regan is a fun sword cavalier with solid defenses, and she gets Kanto 3 for 4 turns. Her unique special pre-charges itself, and it comes with adaptive damage. Then for passive skills, Regan is full of good stuff with Swift Sparrow 3, low speed and defense, and Panic Smoke. Unless you want some extra merges, Regan is excellent for foddering. Can't go wrong with Swift Sparrow 3 with low speed and defense on pretty much any offensive unit. Panic Smoke is fun as well though. Next up is Sothis, who is a Dark Mythic hero and a Red Infantry Dragon. This is probably Sothis' last banner before being demoted to the remix pool. She is next in line to join that group, so a refine is coming at least somewhat soonish. Generally speaking, Sothis could use some help with a refine though. She's basically a generalist distant counter unit, although she nullifies dragon effectiveness, which is nice. Her serious special grants damage based on her speed, and it heals a bit. She also has attack and speed solo 3 for stats, wrath for damage and cooldown, and then the very strong times pulse C skill for all kinds of fun builds. Not the worst fodder, especially times pulse. Now, if you really want Sothis and you'd rather spend money than orbs, she is in the new one-time value pack available for everyone. You can buy one Sothis with some orbs and 1,200 sacred coins for a very cheap $4 US. That is a steal compared to facing the gacha. Last red unit is Malice. She's a sword master with tons of attack and speed, and her spendy scimitar is similar to Hugh's Dragonflower based weapon. Pay her 2 Dragonflowers to get no guard, no special charge, and +6 to all stats. This is on top of accelerated specials, so Malice can be a very fun unit. To abuse specials, she has Spurn for extra damage along with dodge damage reduction, and then for stats, she has attack and speed push 4, and you could use someone like Gonzalez to get the first 3 tiers and pass along the tier 4 with Spurn to another unit. If you want a special spamming sword master who has no guard, Malice is a great unit. Overall, the red group isn't too shabby, some decent units, and good skills on anyone you get. Next, in the blue group, we already talked about Legendary Caeda for skill inheritance though. She has the new Distant Storm DC skill. While it does inflict recoil damage, the +5 attack is great for any unit looking to just smash the foe with as much damage as possible. For example, our instant bonfire builds using Special Fighter or Steady Breath. As for attack and defense rain, pretty good C skill for flyers looking to take less damage and deal more themselves. It's not bad for tankier flyers. Joining Caeda is Mythic Note, who is quite valuable by still being the only Dark Mythic with the extra team slot. That alone could make Note very worthy of a spark, but it's even better because she has Pathfinder to ferry along her teammates. Very disgusting perk, and honestly the core of what makes her so dang annoying. In terms of combat though, Note is no slouch with tons of stats including bonus doubler on her weapon. She then has distant counter and her moon twin wing inflicts attack and speed debuffs, plus it gives her dodge. To get more out of dodge, attack and speed menace is pretty good for that. Whether you want the all-powerful Pathfinder to abuse or just DC plus attack and speed menace, Note is a very good unit to get. Last up is Legendary Fae, ready to reunite with Idun. This Fae is meant to be a crazy annoying tank. She inflicts stat debuffs, prevents a follow-up attack, and she has guard on Dazzling Breath. If you can get through all of that, Life Unending is Fae's unique miracle special. Not only does it pre-charge itself on turn 1, but Fae fully heals after it procs. You quite literally have to go through 2 health bars to take her down. For passives, we have another distant counter skill in Distant Stance. This one just grants plus 5 res, and it's a pure upgrade to DC. You didn't have Dragon's Ire for quicker post with offensive no follow-up. Fae then has defensive menace for some stats and debuffs. Overall, if you want Caeda, definitely a very good time to try to go for her. We have 3 distant counter skills, and Note is a very valuable mythic hero for Aether raids. Moving on to the green group, we have Triandra, who's another dark mythic and a flying green mage. She is a dancer whose Frightful Dream Dance acts like a ruse beast skill. It emits debuffs and the guard status in cardinal directions from Triandra and her ally. Her tome then emits defensive res debuffs in a line as well. Very solid support power. To get around the team, she then has aerobatics, and for combat, she has attack and speed push 4 with speed and res rain 3. Again, if you want, you could grab attack and speed push 4 with the rain C skill if you use Gonzalez or someone like Patrine. Second green unit is Legendary Edelgard, an X armor unit. She's a very slow unit with high attack, and this Edelgard is a solo type armor unit. She has Army Stride to move 2 spaces, and she wants to use this with Raging Storm, which gives Edelgard another action if she initiates solo. Very strong, and is part of Fallen 80s kit as well. For Amir, it's a very simple attack and defense debuff with follow prevention, and she has to be solo again. To complete the solo build, Edelgard has attack and res solo 3. Last green unit to complete the trio is Astrid. She's a green bow cav with pretty good attack and speed stats. Despite that, Astrid provides some very powerful support abilities. She has the Rally plus Ruse combo, which is great, but then when she rallies an ally, her Damio bow also gives them bonus doubler and +1 movement. Astrid cannot give the bonus movement to ranged cavaliers. She is similar to Annette, although bonus doubler is quite fun as well. For combat skills, Astrid has speed and defense bond 4. She's the only hoarder of that skill if you want it. Last group is the colorless one, starting with Legendary Leaf. He's a colorless bow cav, and unlike his harmonic alt with Seliph, this Leaf is very slow. This is due to having a dual phase brave bow, and if you control Leaf, he can prevent a follow-up attack as well. Leaf still has Estrink and Norin Zeal for extra actions, very powerful long range initiator. For stats, he has attack and res push 4 and defense smoke applies debuffs, which he can then use with his extra action. Next up we have Legendary Female Corn. She's a colorless dragon with a ton of base stats. Her Primordial Breath grants excited specials, it gives even more stats, and it gives +1 special charge per attack. This helps Corn abuse Negating Fang, which is a defensive special that procs against melee or ranged attacks. It reduces damage by 30% and empowers Corn's next attack by 30% of her attack stat. She can pre-charge it with Shield Pulse, which also reduces some flat damage, and Corn has distant counter to fight any foe. During drive attack, it's just a solid C skill that can give Corrin and her team more firepower. With all the damage reduction nullification abilities, Negating Fang stands out. Considering it procs on melee or ranged damage, it really makes it an annoying special to deal with. Last unit is Ascended Legion. She's a highly offensive colorless bow cav. Her Flame and Moose Bite specials grants +6 attack and speed, and a bonus to all of her stats equal to 50% of the total field bonus on Legion and the foe. Legion does need a bonus active on her though, and she has Rouse attack and speed 4 to help with that. She then has Swift Sparrow 3 and attack and defense 4 trace for a very fun offensive kit. If you're in the market for some bow cavs, colorless is pretty nice this month. Just be careful of Legendary Caeda and her Vantage tactics. That'll be it for this month's Legendary Banner. It will be out in a couple days, and before we get to that, we have round 1 of the Hero Rises voting gauntlet to settle. Tensions are very high. We'll see who ends up on the 4-man banner, and eventually who's going to get given out to everyone for free. Pick a side and have some fun. Let me know your thoughts on this banner in the comments. Thank you for watching, stay safe everyone, and I will see you in the next video.